Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to another week of the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff as we work our way through the month of May. It's going to be a tricky Sunday for Atlanta United at Seattle Sounders, but we're going to preview that match. We're going to look back on what was an absolutely thrilling win last Saturday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The Twos have had a great week. We're going to get into all of that. There's a lot going on with the club right now, Jason, at pretty much every level, and it's kind of all led to this point now for Atlanta United, where you've got a difficult match on Sunday against the best team of the league. Then you have another home match coming up next week against Nashville. And then you get into the international break. You want to go into that break on a strong note, and that really needs to start this Sunday.
Yeah, this year, in terms of just getting back to a normal season, it started a little bit later than we were accustomed to. It was a little different in the build-up. But right now, it feels like everything's hitting on all cylinders with Twos games in Kennesaw and the academy going and community activities going and tailgates returning and a full house last week and a big win last week. But also some really challenging games coming up that we can sink our teeth into.
But like you said, back to normal. Atlanta United winning matches at a sold-out Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Normal, right? There wasn't a whole lot normal about the way it played out on Saturday against Montreal. It was a great match. Crowd was phenomenal. I think that was a big factor in being able to will Atlanta United to what amounted to a buzzer-beating goal. But let's take a look back at Saturday's match against Montreal. I think this is one we're going to remember for a long time.
Yeah, this was a tough one. Montreal's an underrated team in this league, but they were coming off of a midweek match, and there were a few things that we noticed as the night went on. Eric Lopez with getting in behind Kamal Miller, going to goal there, almost catching Clement Diop. Joseph Martinez had a great chance there from George Bello. He's just a little late on the header. The timing is still coming for Joseph Martinez, who celebrated a birthday this week. Feliz cumpleaños, Joseph. Montreal was dangerous in the first half, and I thought they were able to get into the attacking half and cause Atlanta some problems. When Kamal Miller was able to drive forward, they caused Atlanta some problems. But as the night went on, it felt like the Five Stripes started to take control. Nearly a goal off of a set piece. A foul was called in that sequence. Montreal still had a few moments that Brad Kazan had to deal with in notching another clean sheet. But you get into the last 10 minutes, and it felt like it was all Atlanta. But would they find a goal to show for the work? Joseph nearly got there on that one. Got a lot of Kiki Struna. Nearly created it. But the goal that everybody's seen a whole bunch of times this week with Marcelino Moreno, it all started with George Bello back at midfield. Jake Mulroney drives at the back line, step over, creates the space, also with a run from Bello, by the way, and picks out Marcelino Moreno. That last shot, you can see Jake get his head up, look for the best option, picks out Moreno, puts it on a dime for him. Marcelino had to make a big play defensively as well before that full-time whistle. But Atlanta United got it done on a night where they had to fight for it against a really strong Club de Foot Montreal. And it's a big win, not just because of beating a good team who's in the mix in the Eastern Conference, but the way they did it. Atlanta United doesn't have a whole lot of stoppage time winners in their history. And we've seen this with teams who get a win like that. You get a bounce going forward. Can Atlanta ride that into Seattle this week?
Well, in fact, it's happened only one time in club history. Stoppage time winner. It was in San Jose in 2018.
Oh, yes.
What happened a couple nights after that? You go back to the Benz and you dominate RSL. And what happens after that? Well, suddenly now you're on a run that ends with the MLS Cup. So hopefully this will be a springboard for Atlanta United. I will say that if you are at the match, you had a big role in it. There's no question about it. If you go back, you watch the sequence leading to that game-winning goal, if you listen to it on the radio, there is absolutely no doubt that the crowd had an enormous impact and kind of sensing, hey, Montreal's time wasting a little bit here. Here's a chance to get out on a counter. And I think once George was behind Struna, you really heard the crowd ascending And that had a big, big role in propelling Atlanta United to these 3 points. And players will admit to that. That's not me trying to be corny or anything like that. That is a real thing. The crowd had a big, big role in helping Atlanta United on Saturday.
Yeah, it felt like the last 5-10 minutes, the crowd was really pushing this team forward and giving them a lift. And one player that we know needed that lift, because he told us after the match, Marcelino Moreno was cramping up as he went up for that header. He was struggling, but hearing the roar of the crowd, and for the first time for Marcelino, remember, he joined last summer, first game in an empty Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That was the first chance for Marcelino Moreno to get the Atlanta United experience, because it's not a complete Atlanta United experience without a full building at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. He got that, and it helped give him just enough to make big plays at the end of it.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Marcelino. 2 goals in league play so far this year. Both of them have been very, very key goals. He's done a lot of things, though, I think, off the ball, Jason, that may not get noticed, but are very, very vital as Atlanta United tries to kind of connect things finally now in the attacking third. Let's drill down a little bit more on Marcelino Moreno and our player feature.
Marcelino Moreno, I think, is a player that maybe gets misunderstood a little bit in the conversation about what he brings to the table. He's one of the best in 1v1s in Major League Soccer. Just completely abuses Brandon Bai on that one, inside and out. Gets the penalty that he then converts. Marcelino has stepped up to become a leader for this team. That wasn't a role that he had really filled in his career at Lanús. He was always a complimentary player there, but you go back and you think about the trajectory that Miguel Almiron had coming from Lanús, where he was a complimentary player, to Atlanta, where he grew into a leader and a focal point. I feel like Marcelino Moreno is on that same track in becoming a player of more importance. And he does a lot of the work off the ball, and he does a lot of the work defensively. He picks up the ball in midfield a lot of times. But the area that he has started to, I think, develop the most in his career here in Atlanta so far is in the final third. Because at Lanús, he was not a player who factored into the final third a lot. Here he is. And he's getting into 1v1 situations that many times, as we see in some of these, he's creating the 1v1 situation from an initial play in the midfield. This is the goal against Montreal that will forever be linked to Marcelino Moreno and his time in Atlanta. He drifts into the right spot, and the patience that he showed to not just go crashing into the 6, but to pick out a spot a little bit higher where Jake Mulroney could find him. Jake gets his head up, and Jake picks out Moreno. But Moreno went to the right position. That's something that's difficult when you've been an 8, a box-to-box midfielder for a long stretch of your career, or you've been a winger in a 4-1-4-1 or a 4-2-3-1 where there's a lot of defensive responsibilities. You're not getting into the final third looking for goals yourself. Marcelino showed that he's starting to develop that feel for the final third. That's not something that is easily taught. It's not something that's easily worked on in a drill on the training pitch. It's something that takes some time. And I think we're starting to see Marcelino Moreno get that feel in the final third that is going to be very important for Atlanta United, as the final third has been an area where they need improvement. If Marcelino Moreno can continue to improve in that part of the field, this team will follow his path.
I'm not going to lie. I could probably watch that goal on repeat for an hour.
We could have just had a loop of that all day.
As you're talking, I'm punching the air. Like, yes. It was a beautiful goal. You're right. It's one that I think we're always going to remember, no matter where Marcelino goes from here. We're always going to remember that as maybe one of the seminal moments of his career in an Atlanta United shirt, either as kind of a launching point for him or as a very, very impactful singular moment where he helped to produce a game winner. It was a fantastic night on Saturday. Like we've been saying, it felt normal again. And it was so cool to be a part of it. The good news is we still have 15 more home matches to go. So there's plenty more where that came from. Speaking of things that are getting me excited right now, Jason. Atlanta United, too, may be playing the best that they've ever played as a club in their 4-year history, and they have had a terrific week.
They've had a huge week. The proving ground has been lit for Atlanta United, too. Maybe the best week in Atlanta United 2 history. They go on the road and get a huge result at OKC Energy, and then they come back home against a team in FC Tulsa that had conceded 6 shots on target in 3 games. They were 3-0, flying high. And they gave up 5 goals to Atlanta United, 2 goals in a variety of different ways and from a variety of different players. It was a really special week for Tony Annan and his group.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up a variety of different players, and some of these players are going to factor into the first team later in the season. We saw a little bit of that over the weekend when they were out at OKC.
Yeah, let's look back at the highlights from OKC Energy. This was a tough game, and I've had a chance to talk to Tony Annan this week as he was preparing for Tulsa. This game was chaotic. Atlanta United 2 has struggled on set pieces this season. They conceded on a corner in this one with an initial clearance that is slotted home. But the Twos responded, and Darwin Mateos earns this penalty from Connor Donovan. Matias Benitez stepped up to take it. Not a great penalty, but he converts the rebound. Benitez, on loan from River Plate, gets his first goal in an Atlanta shirt. Great awareness to follow up on that rebound and answer back from a mistake. Okay? Atlanta United 2 made another mistake. They gave up another goal off a set piece. That's what OKC Energy does. They're a dangerous team on set pieces. They're big, they're strong, they're physical. They get another goal inside the 6. That's disappointing because the Twos were controlling the match. They didn't quit, and they get a goal from a cross. Atlanta United 2 got it from Tyler Wolff, who needed it. Wolff had struggled a little bit this season in USL Championship, needed that goal in the 89th minute to get a point on the road. And we've seen Atlanta United 2 over the years. It's a young group for the most part where they struggle at times in road games. They struggle at times with adversity. Not this group. They've got a bit of an edge, a bit of a chip on their shoulder at times. And they went to Oklahoma City, back-to-back games, and it was over a 2-week span. They had a week off in the middle. They went out there, and they got a win, and they got a draw where they came from behind twice. That showed a lot of character, and this group is developing that character that then came out in a thrashing of the division leaders in FC Tulsa in midweek.
Yeah, and you got the feeling finally getting a home match after having to open at Louisville, one of the hardest places to play in USL Championship. And then, as you mentioned, the 2 trips out to Oklahoma. You had a feeling when this group finally got to play at the Fraction, maybe it would be the balloon bursting a little bit. I didn't expect 5 goals, but the balloon definitely bursted on Wednesday.
I thought it would be a tight game. I thought it'd be a difficult one. That balloon popped in a big way at Kennesaw State. Chris Allen got it started off a Mikey Ambrose free kick special that comes off the crossbar. Allen crashes, puts it in. Aiden McFadden, the right back, after a little 2-man game with Connor Stanley, who's on loan from Manchester United. This is his first time playing against grown men. He's played in the academy. He creates that goal for McFadden. Aiden McFadden wasn't done. He gets another one here on a header with a beautiful diagonal run. Ball served into him on a platter. It's 3-0 in just a matter of minutes. And the Twos were not finished yet in the first half. They did have a couple of shaky moments. Ben Lundgaard did end up getting the clean sheet. But first half stoppage time, they go and get another one on that flick from Mateos. It's Tyler Wolff again who gets that goal. And it's 4-0 at halftime. 4-0 at halftime. That had only happened a couple of times in Atlanta United 2's history. The post was a friend to Ben Lundgaard. A couple of shots came off the post. I thought Lundgaard was very vocal. It was great to see him in his first action of 2021. We know there's been some issues with injuries at the goalkeeper position for Atlanta United 2. Tulsa started to get a little frustrated. Corrales got a second yellow that maybe could have been a straight red on the tackle initially. He gets sent off. I thought Alyssa Nichols, the referee, by the way, her third match in USL Championship, she was excellent. Will Riley and Coleman Gannon combined for goal number 5. 2 Atlanta United Academy players, a 1-2 with Riley slipping it into Gannon. That was enough. That did it. And the Twos got a huge win at home against the team that was in the top 3 in the USL Championship power rankings coming in.
That flick by Mateus to Wolf.
Ooh.
Sublime. Unbelievable.
It's so funny. There were so many highlights in that game, and I've watched them back a few times now. That was one that I've kind of slipped down in my memory a bit because there were so many other ones. I'm like, man, that was really good off that long throw.
You know what was great, though, about that match on Wednesday is you can check off so many boxes. You mentioned the Academy kids linking up for a couple big moments, including a goal, and that's very, very important. You like to see the team developing an identity, I think one that reflects their manager, Tony Annan. But another big deal, Jason, you mentioned Mikey Ambrose. His free kick led to one of the early goals in that match. Mateus Josetu was able to play.
Yep.
Alex DeJohn was able to play. Tyler Wolf obviously was able to play and score. So these are first-team players who need minutes right now. Mission accomplished. You were able to get first-team players into that match, play them just enough to not jeopardize their availability for Sunday, and yet still produce a 5-0 win.
Yeah, Ben Lundgaard got a much-needed match. George Campbell got a much-needed 45 minutes in the first half. DeJohn went a little bit longer. Josetu went a little bit longer. Mikey Ambrose was able to go 90 and wear the captain's armband for Atlanta United 2 in this one. But the players who are on twos contracts that you might not know as much about, if you're an Atlanta United fan and you haven't checked this group out, I definitely recommend it because that front 3 that we've seen a couple times now with Darwin Mateos, who is under an Atlanta United 2 contract, coming over from Venezuela, really crafty young player, great in the 1v1s, fits the Atlanta United mindset, a promising player for the future. Matias Benitez, who is on loan from River Plate, who had been in their reserves and their academy. He's electric. He is a dangerous player in the final third. A little more of a north-south player at times than Mateus, but they form up a good pairing. And then Connor Stanley, who hasn't been here very long, coming over from Manchester United's academy, hadn't broken through into their first team yet. He's still very young. He was the man of the match, and he didn't score in a game where he had 5 goals. He was incredible, and he played on the wing. He played centrally in the midfield. He even played up top towards the end. Really good front 3 that is a little different. It's not a huge front 3. You're not going to play a ton of balls in looking for knockdowns with that group, but they are so much fun on the ball, and that identity is the key. And it's something that, talking to Tony Annan this week, talking to different people around the club, the identity is starting to come through with the first team. I think we saw a lot of that identity, not just because there were 5 goals, but because of the way they played. You're seeing that identity with the twos as well. Atlanta United's getting, a little bit of that personality going right now. That's a lot of fun to watch.
Don't forget the twos will play Sunday at 2:30. Atlanta United's first team kicks off at 4:55 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. So you'll be able to watch both if you want. You can watch the twos Sunday at 2:30, followed by the first team. ESPN Plus will have the twos. Fox will have the first team. So I've just planned out your Sunday for you. And if you would like to continue that by watching the Hawks game after Atlanta United plays their playoff game against the Knicks, you can do that too. It's going to be a great day of sports here in Atlanta. And Atlanta United and ATL UTD2 are going to be a big part of it. Now, let's look at what has unfolded over the last week in MLS. There was quite a bit of action on May 15th and 16th. Here are the scores. And what stands out to you here, Jason? I know the Loons got a shaky but much-needed win. Seattle, again, continuing to roll on 2-0 over LAFC. And I'll tell you what, Orlando City, DC, a more compelling match than maybe the scoreline would indicate.
Yeah, DC was tired. I think it showed. They played Thursday night, which was tough for them. That game had some friction towards the end with some of the time wasting, and and dark arts out of Orlando. DC didn't really care for that very much. We'll get into Seattle and LAFC as we preview the Sounders match this weekend. Cincinnati-Miami was kind of a crazy one on national TV on Sunday afternoon. I love the stadium in Cincinnati. I can't wait to be in that building and see a match. They did an amazing job. I think they probably wish the team had done a more amazing job on the pitch in that one, losing the stadium opener to Miami. Gonzalo Higuain keeps doing it. He just keeps doing it. We questioned it when he came to this league. How much did he have left in the tank? Gonzalo Higuain has been very, very good for Miami. Portland went to San Jose and I think got a big statement win with a goalkeeper on loan from the USL Championship in Logan Ketterer. Colorado with another big win. Colorado is kind of under the radar, but putting a bunch of wins on the board. They beat Houston pretty comprehensively. Austin may be coming back to earth just a little bit in a 2-0 loss to the LA Galaxy, where the Galaxy definitely looked like the better team in that one.
Let's start with that one. I was really intrigued by this matchup because Austin, I don't want to say they're playing over their heads, but they've been very, very impressive in the early going. But Chicharito just continues to have it rolling for LA Galaxy.
Yeah, the LA Galaxy just keep finding a way to get Chicharito involved. The near post run, his movement off the ball is always outstanding. And if they can get the right kind of service to him, last year at times it was just lumping crosses in and expecting him to go up and win them like Zlatan did. That's not his game. It's those kinds of crosses on the ground, giving him those chances. Philadelphia and Red Bulls, a tough one, but Philly, it feels like, has gotten through the CONCACAF Champions League, kind of fatigue. They were able to break through. Red Bulls had started out fairly well this season, and we were starting to maybe reassess what they could be. Philly gets that win. They needed it. Here's the Colorado game with Houston. Sam Vines, that's a long run for Sam Vines with nobody picking him up. And Houston was surprising here on the road. It's been consistent over the years where the Dynamo have struggled whenever they get out of the state of Texas. This was another sequence of it. I'm still blown away by that long run. Diego Rubio with a header, another good cross. Michael Barrios had a couple of assists for the Rapids in that one. San Jose is a fun team to watch, but Logan Ketterer kept them off the board, kept Chris Wondolowski off the board. Ketterer is on loan from the El Paso Locomotive in the USL Championship because the Timbers have lost their top 3 goalkeepers. What a job for Logan Ketterer in his MLS debut. Kansas City looked like they came to life a bit against Vancouver, who has struggled at times this season. Daniel Shallowy with the first goal for Kansas City, and watch out, Western Conference. If Alan Pulido gets going, we had a bunch of injuries last year, the Mexican national team striker. If Alan Pulido gets going, Kansas City will be a problem out west. Breck Shea with the first goal in Cincinnati's new stadium history. Didn't have that one on the bingo board. Big one for Breck Shea, who always seems to come up in those big moments. Great to see him back after the injury that we saw here in Atlanta, out in Seattle, by the way. But this is, look, Gonzalo Higuain just doing what Higuain does. Miami had a 2-goal lead. They threw that away. They had to fight back, and there's that man again. Gonzalo Higuain, top of the 6, putting it home, and Miami just keeps finding a way to be a thorn in people's side. They get the win over Cincinnati in the stadium debut.
Higuain, the MLS Player of the Week. I'm with you. I'm glad to see Breck Shea doing well. I just would not like it to happen against Atlanta United, but Breck's one of my favorite guys in the league. And it was a win for Cincinnati, even in a 3-2 loss, because you're right, the stadium's fantastic. Here is the schedule for this weekend. Couple matches really stand out to me here, Jason. The Columbus Crew against New York City, who's top of table in the Eastern Conference right now. And I'm with you about SKC. I think SKC, look, Seattle is dominating the Western Conference right now. I think SKC is lurking. And if anyone's going to challenge Seattle in the West, it might be them. Here they are now against that fascinating Earthquakes team out in California.
Yeah, MLS After Dark is always fun when the San Jose Earthquakes are involved. And you've got a sporting Kansas City team that's putting goals on the board right now. That could be a high-scoring one at 10 o'clock Saturday night. Columbus NYC is a good one to look at because Columbus has been a bit disappointing. NYC's been quietly on the upswing. How do they look? At Red Bull Arena, by the way, in that one of their first home games that they're playing in New Jersey this season. Orlando, Toronto. Toronto with Jefferson Soteldo. He's got a couple games under his belt now. Does he start to break out? Does Orlando hold Toronto off? It's kind of a home game for Toronto. They've been based in Central Florida, so they don't have to travel for that. And in that last game of the weekend at 9 o'clock on Sunday, Austin has gotten a lot of people excited with really good play in their expansion season. But Nashville's undefeated this year. It's been a little underwhelming at times because there's been a lot of draws in that undefeated run, but they haven't conceded a goal in a long time. Joe Willis is one of the most underrated players in the league, and Nashville could very easily keep a clean sheet against an expansion team in Austin at home at Nissan Stadium and bring a very long shutout streak to Mercedes-Benz Stadium next week.
Yeah, if that happens, it will be a 400-plus minute shutout streak for Nashville going into Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I'm telling you, spine of that team, Joe Willis, Walker Zimmerman, tough to break down. That's next week's concern. We're going to focus on this week's match in a moment against Seattle Sounders. But first, we have a very important event going on with the club this weekend. It's going to happen on Saturday, and I'm so glad that the unified team is getting its season back underway. Atlanta United Special Olympics unified team. We've been very, very lucky to hang out with this group over the last couple of years, spend some time with them at road matches. Well, on Saturday, Atlanta United is going to sign its unified team players to contracts. To talk about that with us and some other things going on right now with the club in the community, here's Marissa Ahrens of Atlanta United. Marissa, this is a big weekend for the unified team. Tell me about the event that's scheduled for Saturday.
Yeah, this has been a long-awaited one here, Mike. So on May 22nd, we are officially getting back with Unified. Our Special Olympics Unified team is going to be here at the training ground on the show pitch, signing their contracts for the 2021 season, and we could not be more excited. So we'll have a great little in-person event. This is another big milestone. I think this is our first in-person community event since March 2020. So we'll have our unified team out, which is now 21 athletes. We are officially at an 11v11 capacity. And our 5 coaches, their families, and roughly 55 plus supporters from all of our 4 registered supporter groups coming out to do their thing, which is normally cheer on our team and do individualized chants as each kid is signing their contract. I mean, you couldn't feel more like a superstar. So we'll have some special guests that I can't really speak to here. But with it being our 5th season, just like the club is celebrating, this milestone, so is the unified team, since we onlined in 2017, just like they did. So we'll have some special guests that are historical and very important to our unified program show up and just kind of kickstart the 2021 season.
Marissa, walk us through last year in your role, overseeing community events. How hard was it to not be able to do the unified team and not be able to do at least the normal things? I know there were things going on behind the scenes, and maybe let folks know how you guys handled 2020 and the craziness with it.
Yeah, you know what? I don't even know if I've had a full time, Jason, to really sit into that either. But we've really approached it as trying to find unique ways to touch base with some of our community groups still, whether that was through videos, little player messages, kind of those take and bake programs or fun activities, and where I can really kind of sink into, which I think we did extremely well and we're a leader in the league for, was around unified. So, and I have to give my coordinator, Chelsea Monroy, who really oversees the day-to-day of this program, all the credit, because she came up with the idea that ended up getting piloted with the 8 other MLS clubs that participated, which was the Unified We Play. which was the virtual competition model that we brought upon, I think right around the time MLS was coming back in July. So with our team, though, to start out, we just did Zoom calls, and God love our first team ambassadors at the time, which were, Brad Gazan and Eric Grametti. They popped on and just talked to the kids. It's a lot of smack talking, to be honest, Jason and Mike. Like, they love to make sure our guys are, kept in check. And just checking in on them and making sure they're doing okay, sending them little care packages. And then we did a virtual signing day, which, Kev Negan helped us out with, and it turned out spectacular. But yeah, then we had Unified We Play come on with 8 other MLS teams that were willing to do something as well and have Unified as a core pillar. Unfortunately, we got second to New England Revs in that competition, which was a variety of things. Some of it was soccer skills or minute to win it, fun, silly games, just to keep things light and fun in the theme of COVID and you're stuck at home. And then some fitness and agility things as well. So that was a really unique and innovative idea that, like I said, I'm very proud that someone on my team, that Chelsea, came up with this and then just reached out. We didn't sit around and wait for it. We said, hey, this is important. Let's do it. So it was coming up with ideas like that across the board, whether it was our Salute Our Troops military platform or celebrating our heroes. And I have to give credit to every single department in this club for coming together and doing things together for the first time, probably at the level that we did, which is involving our corporate partnership team, our marketing team, digital video, to really make everything come to life. So I was super proud of last year, given every hurdle that we were tossed. We just kept getting over them.
The one thing I've really loved, Marissa, about the Unified team over the last 5 years is how the first team really sees the Unified team as an extension of the entire club. And Jason and I talk about it a lot. With Atlanta United, it's not just the first team that we see at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's Atlanta United too. It's the academy. And it's the Unified team. And they're really a big part of that. You mentioned that Brad Guzan is one of your first team ambassadors. I know Santi Sosa is another. But can you talk maybe briefly about how important the Unified team is to what the club is trying to do on a day-to-day?
You know what? It's so crucial. And I have to give Darren and Carlos all the support and credit for making it as important to the front office as it was to me, starting up the community, and to our Special Olympics family and our Unified family. They were very purposeful about starting it the same year our first team did. And when I heard that MLS did this program, it's near and dear to my heart, because they always, like, Special Olympics has always had a special place. But being able to pilot something like this with the club from the ground floor has made all the difference for not only our kids, but the Special Olympics group here in Georgia as a whole, in terms of exposure and the things and opportunities that we can pass along to these kids. So I have to say, it was the opportunity to get them in front of our first team and have the first team very woven into it. And my gosh, I can't even probably count the number of practices throughout the last 4 years that I think in 19, we had every single first team player come out to Unified practice by the end of the year. And that makes all the difference. We say that all the time with, as we were trying to get partners or anyone else involved, you have to come out. You have to see the magic that happens, not only at MBS on match days, but at these practices and the relationships that are formed. We have, alumni like Greg Garza that still texts with Antonio Guzman, which I know you guys are all very well familiar with. Still today, And so when you get that buy-in, and then you also see the kids on flights, in 2019, we flew to Orlando together and flew back and stayed at hotels in 2018 together. It's a crucial piece of really make them feel like they're part of this family. And then our supporters, I cannot thank them enough, because just like they support and love our first team guys, they wrap their arms around Unified in the personalities that we have on that team. And every single signing day, come out, show out, do chants for these kids, individual chants for each and every kid, and bring out the scarves. And even, in 2019, which was our last home match, created a special tifo for them at their match. Like, it just goes above and beyond what I think thought this could be, and has now become a staple of the club. And any player that comes on, we were talking to Sosa the other day, and he was like, okay, so when's the first practice? Like, he's ready to rock and roll and get out and hang out with the kids. So I can't stress enough how important that connection is to really make something stick and live beyond my time at the club or a player's time at the club. It will just transcend, the time in the season that we're in.
You mentioned the games, the practices. For
Yep.
fans, I think they see the games and they hear about the games. What else is part of the unified program? What other interactions do the participants get?
That's a great question, Jason. So we always kick off every year with our signing day, which is the big day that they get their jerseys, sign their contracts, they're official member of the team. But actually, a little behind the scenes before that, they go through a media day just like our first team guys do. So a couple months back, we had our video and photo shoots at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for our first team content, and we threw our unified team in there just like we did the first team, so that the look, the feel, everything is the same. And that's part of it. We're not a different team, we're an extension team to the first team. So that way they feel like superstars, and they have their own graphics. It's awesome, the support that team and those departments give to us. So once we hit signing day, we're off to the races, and we are doing weekly practices here at the training ground. Again, you have that backdrop of, being able to train just where the first team trains. And throughout the years, we've scrimmaged. Our own staff have played against them. I myself have been terrorized by Shaq Pinson, our goalie, trash talking me in the other goal. So that's a great touch point. We scrimmage our academy teams, other unified teams from across the state. And so that happens throughout the season, ongoing. And then minus our, away or home exchanges with different MLS clubs. We've also done a few other special things, and some of those will be coming online this year as well. We did a really cool jamboree at the end of 2019 with all the unified teams that participate here in Special Olympics Georgia, and we hosted them at the training ground for a weekend. It was rainy, but it was awesome. Parky came out, and again, it's just more about that exposure and making those connections into other areas of the community that may not be in our backyard. And then another really cool opportunity that we did early 2020 was with the middle school, Tulsa Middle School. We brought some of their special athletes out, and we did kind of a clinic. So it was bridging that gap of getting some of, the next generation unified team players used to what unified is, getting them in front of our first team. And that's something we're going to be looking to do more with, is getting into our elementary school and middle school populations to get kids involved in unified soccer. So if fans aren't aware, our unified team is made up of high school athletes, we can expand that into early 20s. And then our partners without disabilities are always around that high school age. So we really skew 14 and above. So we're really looking to increase that developmental side, now that we've gotten our feet wet in 5 years of unified. And then something we're doing this year to celebrate is a fun celebration in August with some of our past athletes and partners, and bringing them back and doing a really cool event that we'll be able to talk about at a later date. But we're really excited about it to really just push it home and celebrate the 5 years that we've had so far.
Jason and I miss doing unified games. We were able to do a few in 2018 and 2019. Are you optimistic that we might be able to get back to playing some games later this year?
Yes, I'm optimistic on that. We are currently in the process of talking to a few other clubs that have unified teams to see if schedules and just travel restrictions will allow us to do that. But right now, I'm feeling pretty darn optimistic.
Are there any other community initiatives coming up that the fans should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, so over the next week or so, to celebrate Memorial Day, our Salute Our Troops platform will also be doing a series of events. On Friday, May 21st, we are going to be out with Soldiers Angels with some of our associates doing a volunteer packing for veterans. So we'll be serving about 200 veterans across Atlanta and doing a drive-through food pickup. So that will be awesome to kick things off. And then we started a program last year called Mission TAPS, and TAPS is Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors. So this is celebrating our fallen heroes and honoring them through their families. And we had 4 families last year that participated in Mission TAPS. And this year we have 1 family that we're bringing back into the fold. And they will be starting their journey with us at our May 29th match. They'll be out for the Nashville match, and we're so excited to have them up and running. And we'll have an additional TAPS family coming out to the training ground here soon to do a special ceremony with our flag that we have here. So we're getting up and running. We'll also have a great spotlight coming out with one of our vet dogs. Everyone loves our puppy Spike, who is currently getting in training with vet dogs. We have a local graduate from vet dogs here that we did a really cool story on his journey, and we're really excited for that to come out. So unified, military, we're getting back to it, guys, and I'm just so pumped that we're starting to feel like the early 2020 vibes, late 2019 vibes again.
I think you are probably the biggest person at the entire, or the busiest person, the busiest person at the entire club. So I really appreciate your time to join us today. And we can't wait for this unified team signing coming up on Saturday.
No, I appreciate you guys always giving the unified team love and the community platforms in general. So thank you guys. I appreciate your support and sharing the great stuff that we have going on.
Great visiting with Marissa. Really looking forward to getting to see some unified team action again later this season. Okay, let's look ahead now to Sunday's match at Lumen Field in Seattle, Atlanta United, Seattle Sounders. This is the board that I use when I call matches. I have all my notes on Atlanta United and the opponent on that board. And I'm just going to look down for a second. Seattle, Jason, unbeaten in 6 matches, first in the league in goals, first in assists, first in goals allowed, first in goal difference. They're slacking a little bit on shots. They're only 5th in the league in shots and 4th on shots on target. So they got to work on that. They have Raul Ruiz-Diaz, who's 2nd in the league in goals scored. They have Joao Paulo, who is 2nd in the league in assists right now. They're so good. They are so good. However, they have had moments, including, I think, in the first half against LAFC last Sunday, where opponents have gotten into them a little bit. Can Atlanta United maybe replicate some of that this Sunday?
Let's talk through the highlights from Seattle and LAFC last week. LAFC was missing Carlos Vela. That's a big part of that matchup. He came on late in the second half, but he's not himself at the moment. Seattle, I don't know if they've been tested by a team that will play in the manner that Atlanta does. LAFC shows elements of that with their pressure. Seattle plays through the pressure very well in this sequence. And notice that it is the left wing back, Brad Smith, who is making a run through the middle. That is a huge element for the Sounders. Getting Alex Roldan, this is Christian playing this ball through, but Alex Roldan on the right and Bradley Smith on the left forward and getting them involved. If Atlanta can pin them in and keep them from attacking, that will help. Also have to avoid set pieces. Set pieces are strong for Seattle with Will Bruin, with Arriaga, who gets the goal here. The service is always good, even missing Nico Ladero. This is a team that can punish you if you give them opportunities on dead ball situations. Arriaga gets this one. Atlanta struggled with set-piece situations as well, so it's something that could turn the tide in this game. But this is the moment that I look at with Seattle, and you start to wonder how Atlanta handles these situations. This is an incredibly well-worked goal by the Sounders that Smith, again, the left wing back in their 3-5-2, 5-3-2, puts away. A number of passes through the middle, which hasn't exactly been a hallmark of Seattle soccer under Brian Schmetzer. It starts there. That's after a number of passes. Popped out to the right side. A cross floated in for a wingback crashing in on the backside to put home. Brooks Lennon, George Bello will be under a lot of pressure in this one as Smith and Alex Roldan are 2 players who could turn the tide in this game. And they're not the players that you normally talk about when you get into the Seattle Sounders. A lot of times it's Nico Ladero. He's going to miss this. He's going to be shut down probably until after the international break, as he's still dealing with some knee inflammation. He's played a little bit this season, but he hasn't responded well to that time on the field. So you won't see Nico Ladero. Christian Roldan gets a lot of talk in general this year especially. I think he's an MVP candidate this year. He's been immense for them picking up some of that slack. Raul Ruidiaz, I mean, there's not a lot more to say about the Peruvian. He's one of the best strikers in this league. Go back to the goal he scored in 2019 against Atlanta United. He's capable of moments of magic that you just can't always stop. It's the issue with how they play out wide now, because Brian Schmetzer's changed their tactical setup. It's not the old 4-2-3-1 that we're used to with Seattle. He's playing two up top. Will Bruin is playing with Raul Ruidiaz, and he's the perfect kind of partner for a forward like that because he's so unselfish and he's so good at being that, escape valve when Seattle has to go long. He's great in the air, but he's really good at bringing others into the game, whether that's Christian Roldan coming forward, whether that's Joao Paulo coming forward, slipping it into Ruidiaz, or popping it out wide to these outside backs getting forward. And I feel like this match will be decided by the flanks with George Bello versus Alex Roldan and Brooks Lennon versus Bradley Smith. If Atlanta United wins those two individual battles, I think they can win this match in Seattle, something nobody's done this season. If they struggle in those battles, Seattle will have a decided advantage in this match because they need those wide players to contribute in the attack.
I'm really impressed at how Seattle has been able to do this with their depth situation right now. Seattle has only 20 outfield players signed to first-team contracts right now, including Lodero, who's hurt and out for them. Jordan Morris is on loan and, of course, got hurt during his loan spell. So the fact that Seattle has been able to do this with really only 20 outfield players, they have not been able to fill out a complete team sheet in any of their 6 matches this year. It was just last week or 2 weeks ago where they signed a 16-year-old Reed Baker Whiting just to give them a body. But they've been pulling it off. Now they've lost their goalkeeper on top of that, too. Stephen Fry is hurt. So Stefan Cleveland has come in. And what happens? Clean sheets LAFC. Mm-hmm. It really is remarkable how they've been able to pull this off. But that's one thing I'm kind of holding on to, Jason, is can Atlanta United, and I know we showed an example of Seattle getting 2 second-half goals against LAFC, but can Atlanta United influence this match with their depth and maybe some substitutions where Seattle might run out of gas a little bit in this match, and maybe Atlanta United can burn them for something late?
Yeah, look, Gabriel Heinze doesn't like to go to his bench a lot, and that's been something that has sparked some conversation. We were talking about it on the radio call last week. We expected to see some subs, and the one that had a huge impact was Jake Mulroney. I don't think Gabriel Heinze is going to be a manager who makes subs just to make subs, but he makes impactful substitutions. And Mulroney was the right pick at the right time, and he had the patience to see it play out. Now, it took till the last minute, literally, for that to play out, but ultimately, Gabriel Heinze got that one right. What do you see against a Seattle team this weekend that could get tired as the day goes on? One thing about fatigue for Atlanta United this season, they've had 4 matches where they've had a full week of preparation. They're 4-0 in those matches. Where they've struggled at times has been when they've had games pile up and they've had minutes pile up. This is a side in Atlanta that wants to press high. I think you can make Seattle have some problems in doing that. Their back 3 has been good this season. We've seen Nuhu now turn into a center back for the Sounders, and put him under pressure, he might give you a gift. He might give the ball away. Arriaga, Andrade might give the ball away. O'Neal, they could turn the ball over in dangerous spots. If Atlanta's rested, as they will be, they are far better in pressing up high than when they've been fatigued. That's a huge element for Atlanta United as they still build the connections in the final third. That is going to be a work in progress. That's going to come with time. But they can impact games now with pressure in the final third, turning the ball over in the final third and going to goal. That could be another big element for Atlanta in this one on Sunday.
Atlanta United has played 5 competitions on the road this year. 1 win, 1 loss, 3 draws. But when they're not traveling day of game, 1-0-2. So it's a long trip to Seattle, but they're not going to travel day of game. That might help a little bit too. I'm just looking for anything right now because it's very hard to come up with a high confidence prediction for this match. Now, I will note, I don't want to brag.
You're bragging.
No, well, because it might be the only one I get right this year. Because last week, I predicted Atlanta United would score a goal off a cross, and that's exactly how they got the game winner. It was a Jake Mulroney cross to Marcelino Moreno. So it only took 5 weeks to get one right. So join us again in late June to see the next correct prediction, I guess. But I'm going to go with this, and I'm serious. This is a very low confidence prediction. Very low confidence.
Okay.
I believe there will be a total of 1 goal scored in this match.
Okay.
If you look at statistically, I know Seattle has scored a ton, but they've also conceded the fewest goals in MLS this year. Atlanta United has conceded the 3rd fewest goals in MLS. I think Robinson and Walks and Guzan, who was brilliant on Saturday against Montreal, and I don't think has gotten enough credit for how brilliant he was. I think the center backs and Guzan stand tall in Seattle. I don't know who scores the goal. I don't know if it's a Seattle goal or an Atlanta goal, but I think we're only going to have one. I think it's going to be a 1-0 or scoreless situation on Sunday.
Okay. If we continue on that, I agree. I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals in it. I think there could be more than one, but I don't think there's going to be many in this. My prediction, I like to go on the individuals that I think will have big games here. And I think George Bello can build on another big performance. Bello's role in that winning goal has been underrated a little bit. He had a brilliant touch at midfield to create the space to then play Mulroney in, but Bello somehow found, I don't know if it was a 12th gear or a 15th gear or whatever it was by that point, to make a long run to open up even more space for Mulroney to deliver the cross. Bello versus Alex Roldan. And Alex Roldan has surpassed all expectations I had for him playing on the right side. Wingback is a little more comfortable for him than when he was playing as a right back in a line of 4 last year. He struggled at times. He struggled in the MLS Cup final against Columbus in that position. Wing back suits him a little bit better. He's really good getting forward. Good passer. Really smart player. I think George Bello can cause him problems, and I think George Bello will contribute to a goal, either an assist or a goal for himself. And if he does that, and if Brooks Lennon can pin Bradley Smith in on the other side, that's where Atlanta United can make Seattle look different than they have this season. And it's a big difference between, for example, what LAFC did to Seattle and what Atlanta can do to them. The wingers staying up high and the outside backs pushing up high. It pins the other team's outside backs or wing backs back. It keeps them from getting involved because they have to defend first. If Atlanta can make that happen, keep Alex Roldan, keep Bradley Smith, who we saw are vital in Seattle's attack. Keep them from doing that. Atlanta can win this game. They can go to Seattle and win this game. They have to play their best game of the season to do it. And George Bello, for my prediction to come true, has to play his best game of the season to do it. I think he's going to build on a really good performance against Montreal and contribute to a goal on Sunday.
Good shout. I like it. Maybe that'll be the only goal of the match, and then we'll both be right. That would be a good thing, too.
Take it.
All right. Next week, we'll be with you for another edition of the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff as we look ahead to the Nashville match. Remember, Sunday, big day, 2:30. Atlanta United 2 on ESPN+. 4:30, Atlanta United on Fox. Jason and I will have the call on Star 94 FM. That'll be at 4 o'clock on Sunday. The kickoff will be 4:55 Eastern Time. We hope you will join us on the radio for that. And one more thing before we go. We do read all the comments, and we appreciate all your comments. And if you have any suggestions for the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff, please continue to send them. Someone had noticed last week when we were recording at home that my dog Clark snuck into the background, and I actually had to watch the tape, and sure enough, I see the door to my office open behind me, and there's Clark. Well, yesterday was National Rescue Dog Day, and Clark is a rescue dog. They don't allow doggies at 92.9 The Game in our studio, unfortunately. So Clark is with me in spirit today.
Aww.
And I'll have to send Ryan a picture. Maybe we can get Clark to make a cameo in that way. But next week, we're going to record at home. So maybe we can get Gwen and Clark in here, because one thing I have found, Jason, believe it or not, as much as people like you and I, they seem to really like dogs.
Mm-hmm. They like our dogs more than us. That's okay. Gwen's awesome, and Gwen is also a rescue dog. And Gwen has made an appearance on the show before already,
Yes.
both vocally and thanks to the wizardry of Ryan. Also, you got a little shot of seeing Gwen on screen. She is napping right now. She's enjoying
Good.
her National Rescue Dog Day with a nap at the moment.
We were worried because the landscaper showed up right as we started recording, and Gwen tends to have an eagle eye for the weed whacker and the leaf blower. So I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, she does not care for that, but she is preparing for her afternoon walk where she will flop down on the ground and roll around and beg for a tummy rub in the yard. Yeah.
Oh, I want to come over and give her a belly rub. Maybe next week. Maybe that's what we'll do for a future AT&T Countdown to Kickoff segment. Belly rubs with our dogs, because Clark is a big fan of those.
Highest rated segment of the show.
It would be. It absolutely would be. I think it would be phenomenal. We also want to do a grilling challenge with Kevin Egan. I think that might be down the road as well.
Yes.
So anyhow, keep sending us your comments for suggestions for future segments here on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. We're glad you're enjoying the extended format. We hope you enjoy all the action on Sunday with the first team and the second team, and we will see you next week here on Atlanta United's YouTube page for another edition of the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff.